when Diane invited me to come here, I said I'm going to talk about the strategy in the digital area, and those words are important to me. You're going to see why. And I'm going to talk about digital strategy and a French heritage site. That's three different elements coming together. First one, it's an easy one. I just explained it, French heritage site. You see the picture, castles, abbey, stuff that's been here for centuries. You get it. Second term, digital. A little more tricky. Getting to a definition of what digital is quite difficult. So within the team, what we say is all the new technologies and devices, plus the new experiences and the innovative stuff that they bring, stuff, like large word, but this is what we use, that bring to the public. That's it. So that's a very large scale to deal with. Last but not least, strategy. What is strategy? Okay, I don't have like 2 hours in front of me, so I'm going to give you the definition I'm going to use today. Let's say it's the art of coordinating actions to reach a goal. Closely linked the goal to the mission statement that Axel mentioned. So therefore, I will spend the next 29 minutes showing you how the CMN, which is a structure managing heritage site in France, is developing a strategy to cope with digital. So usually you have like the 10 commandments. This time is like the 10 figures and the 4 commandments. The 4 commandments on the right are our missions. That is to say, we have to restore, maintain, promote, and open to visitors, or 99 monuments. I'm going to try to just show you some images so that you know what I'm talking about. Just the figures are to give you an idea of what that represents. It's 100 monuments. Actually, I'm not fighting on the numbers because we have like grottos, so if I count one grotto each it's like 104. So it's around 100 monuments. We had the 2 last joining the network in last year. One is Hôtel de la Marine, which is a beautiful building in the center of Paris on Place de la Concorde. And the second one is Villa Kerylos, which is a place where a family used to live on the coast, on the Mediterranean coast of France. So 2 different monuments joining the network. We have a 130 million euro annual budget, but we spend that money mostly on restoring. We have 65 ongoing restoration works. These are monuments, but we need to take care of them in the long run. So I'm just going to show you images of Villa Cavrois, if you can just click on, because I cannot, yeah, thanks. This is how the villa looked like in April 2004. This villa was built by Miley Stevens in the 1930s, and it was abandoned. I don't go into the history of that. If you want to have the details of the story, just go to the website, villa-cavrois.fr. And this is how it looks like 11 years afterwards. When we reopened it to the public last year, it was a huge success because people were waiting and expecting to see that stuff. That's really a huge, huge restoration work, but we have also that kind of stuff. This is Azé Castle right now, and these are the scaffolding that you see, and we're trying to, okay, how that the pointer works? It's the red one. Can you show that? You see that little statue on the top here? It's the red button. Yeah, this thing here. Whoops. This thing here, over there. This is the thing we're trying to restore right now, part of the ceiling. So this is also huge stuff, but inside that huge restoration work, the small stuff that we're trying to do. Yes, thanks. So that's part of it. The second part is to promote. Promoting is the figures you have on the left. We have around 70 libraries and shops inside those monuments. We are places where films are being shot, more than 300 a year. I know that Maite from Versailles is around here, but for example, when you see Versailles in movies, most of the time it's in one of our castles, never, meaning most of the time not turned into in Versailles, the real setting. Promoting is also in the digital way. We have 90,000 Facebook fans on 48 pages. 99 monuments, we have 48 pages now, because some monuments do have, some do not. And we have more than 2 million views on our YouTube channel. We also have an activity of publishing. So we've been editing books. It's called Les Éditions du Patrimoine. And they have 600 reference catalog with small guides for the visitors, but also a reference book on how to work on heritage. Last but not least, open to visitors and non-visitors. This is really important to me and to the people working at the CMN. Our aim is to open to the largest audience possible. That is to say, going to catch people that are not coming to our places. So today, in 2015, we had 9.2 million visitors. To give you an idea, it's like the same amount as the Louvre in Paris. Okay, we're 99, so that's easier, but to give you the ranking. And we organize 400 events every year. Behind events, you have exhibitions, but also dance shows inside the monuments or public readings, all that kind of stuff. So that's who we are. Quite easy, quite simple. We've been here for 100 years as an institution, and the monuments have been here for centuries, so we're quite here to stay. But there is something happening around, and this is something I could describe as a digital vertigo. I told you in the introduction what we can define as digital, but what's important is not exactly what it is, but what it provokes. And what it provokes is that we run at a different pace, quite scary indeed for some people, and it's getting worse or better, depending on how you live with it. I just put some figures on that drawing. The first of all is this one, 3.7 billion. It's the number of people going on the internet worldwide. That's 1 out of 2 persons in the world. So that's something that's international, worldwide, universal question. Those people exchange 144 billion emails a day. That's a huge amount. And that's a new way of communicating, too. We tend to forget about that, but that's the basic of some of the digital changes arriving. 90%, it's 90% of the data that you have today on the internet have been produced in the last 2 years. So that means there's a lot of people, a lot of information, and it keeps getting harder and harder to keep up with the pace. It's always accelerating. This one is a French figure because, it really depends on the national and stuff. But this is the number of minutes, that's 300 minutes, that people spend on an average every day on the internet. 300 minutes in France, that's the French figures. I think, I don't have the numbers for TV, but I think it's quite the same amount for TV. Lots of information, lots of time spent, and an information that you can find in very different spaces. It's not really organized, because you have this number is the number of websites that are created every day. 822,000. I know that the figures are not really what we are up to here when we talk about museums and monuments, but sometimes just keep up with that challenge that we're facing. So that's what's happening. I just put the last one. Just some people would say, okay, that's a general issue, but when you work in the cultural sector, you just don't give a damn. You're not part of it. 416 is the number of visitor apps in the French cultural sector. That means to say there's 400 apps available today if you want to visit a place. That's not a huge number, but it's been increasing in years. So that's something that is really developing and really starting. So some people just say there's no digital issue. You can pretend you don't see it, but it's over there. The figures are quite talkative. And it's like a wave too, but a wave in itself is not positive or negative. A wave can be a tsunami, and that's quite destructive if you don't see it coming. But you can see it coming and prevent it. Any reference to events happening in Paris right now, like the flooding, just preventing, knowing it's going to happen and get ready for it. Or there's another stage into that, you can surf the wave. Surfing means you need to learn to do with our techniques and do something different. And that's exactly what digital is about, is learning to live with a different environment. So for us, it changed the way we work, and it questions the way to succeed in that new universe. I tried to sum up in 2 rules. The first one is play by the rules, by those new rules, and second, stay true to who you are. For the new rules, I tried to sum it up in 5 adjectives. It's a summary. There's no way I can define what it changes, but this is how we try to work with that digital new ways of working. The first one is collaborative. Actually, I could say it's like learn to adapt to a collaborative spirit. When you look around you, when you search for something on the internet, the first answer you get is always from Wikipedia. Wikipedia is nothing else than a collaborative source of information. So this example, or the crowdfunding platforms, just show you that sharing and co-building are key to success for today for some elements. Second idea is think global. Actually, I wanted to put, but I think it's only a French word, glocal, which is a contraction between global and local. That is to say, the internet, when it was built, is international. The name in itself, it's a World Wide Web. So you're going worldwide when you're launching something. So you should make sure that what you publish has a meaning for any individual on Earth. That means you need to translate. That means you need to take care of what you're saying. And that means that you have to think about every individual. So the global means also being very specific and very personalized. Third element, instantaneous. People now have Netflix, they want their video coming up in the next minute. Snapchat is all about that too. I want it, and I want it now. Another example of that is you want to have the Wi-Fi. If you don't have like 3G or 4G and you're going to get the information in the next seconds, you're just out of the scope. People now, like, having the Wi-Fi is the bottom of the pyramid, even in a cultural institution. And that's based on that. It also links with what I was saying just before, that pace. You have to go quicker and quicker. Fourth element, it's not an element, it's more than a challenge. It has always been designed as a free space. Free like freedom of speech, freedom of information, and free of charge. This is great, but this raises questions for us. When Axel was talking about MOOC, actually, like courses, online courses. Today, if you want, you can have an Harvard teacher for free. That raises questions. That's great, but it raises questions. The last one is unstable. We are living in an unstable environment. Snapchat, that I was mentioning, didn't even exist 5 years ago. Facebook now, lots of people are using it. Where will it be in 4 years, 5 years, 10 years? Honestly, if someone can give me the answer and be 100% sure, I would break my second leg for that answer, because I don't think anyone could say that today. And that's why we need to experiment, implement, and accept the fact that we cannot predict the future. That's the new rules. Following those rules is quite easy, but it should not make you think that you just need to follow that. You just have to stay true to who you are and what you've been created for. It sounds easy, but it's not that simple. I try to do it for my institution because this is something we've been asking a long time. We're a public institution in charge of protecting and promoting historical sites. We're a network, and that's part of our DNA, to be a network. That is to say, to sum up, actually, the people visiting one of the places that we have help us maintain the other places. When we have, like you saw, the Villa Cavrois works going on, the money to do that comes from, of course, the state, but also the money, the tickets that we sell for the entrance to the Arc de Triomphe or the Mont Saint-Michel-Bay, stuff like that. So the network and the collective action is our DNA. Therefore, I try to sum up what is our ambition, and it can sum up in one word. It's connecting. That's mine. I mean, it's not forcefully yours, but for us, the aim is, as you see there's like the past. Here is the past. All those people who built the monuments and the future coming up. And the idea is to connect all those two elements. That's why the present is about connecting past and future. And connecting in 3 dimensions, in time, between the people, and in space. Time means the past and the future, and it's transmitting the monuments, but also their history, and the values that they are sharing and contributed to this. So this is something we strongly believe in, is that we all have, whether you like it or not, a social and a political role to play. So it is monuments, buildings, but also histories and values linked to it. The second one is linking the people together. That is to say tourists, handicapped people, not handicapped people, the young, the old, the local, the international, because actually creating exchanges is what culture is all about. So that's what we do too. And visitors, and as I mentioned, non-visitors are at the key, at the center of our strategy. The third one is space. As I mentioned, we are a network, so we are connecting the monuments between them. We're also connecting them with their local environment, and we're also connecting them with other cultural institutions. I will mention that later on, but we have, for example, a partnership with some Russian monuments that are linked with French monuments. So my strategy, my goal actually is connecting, and my strategy is to coordinate the actions to reach that goal. As you mentioned, as you may have noticed, I never mention a digital strategy, because there's a strategy, and digital is just part of it. The strategy is connecting, and digital is just a way to help to contribute to that connecting stuff. So it's much more having a strategy in the digital area, playing by those roles in that environment, than having a digital specific strategy. But how do we experiment and make that go into live? We try to answer to that by building a digital ecosystem. This is the word we used. And that strategy is anchored in an ecosystem with 7 major actors. I will just show you some examples, and then I'll show you some project that brings together all those elements. The first one is the public. It's on the bottom if you can, no. No, it's not this one. You have to click on public. I cannot do it. Yes, exactly. We try to get to know them, so that's all the visitor studies and stuff like that, but also to get them involved in what we're doing. So what you see on the screen is Ma pierre à l'édifice in French, translation to my share for French heritage. That is to say, we developed our own crowdfunding platform and asked them to participate and help us renovate all the monuments we have. The one you see here, the hashtag Azé Renaissance, is the hashtag we use for all the works going on at the Azé Castle. Okay, and we're asking the people to contribute to that. One example of the counterparts that you can gain if you give us money is that you can visit the place where they're actually restoring the works. So this links with our mission. Remember, I told you the first thing is to restore, to protect, to maintain. So we make the public participate with the money, but also understand what it means to restore and to maintain our heritage. The second one that we have is the media. Yes, we have to click on media on top of it. Great. Did you ever fly with an archangel? Did you ever? No? This is where I'm going to bring you now for 40 seconds, if it works. Just go ahead, yeah. Click on it. Great. So this was like 2 weeks ago. And what you see here, that yellow stuff here, oops, sorry. Let's get away from the sound. Yeah, this one here. See that one? That's the golden archangel on top of the Mont Saint-Michel Abbey, right? So it didn't have, the gold was gone away with the water going on, etc. So we needed to do on the restoration work. So what we did is we met the Periscope team, and they were like, do you have something fun that we can do, and filming with a GoPro and so on? And we told them, you know what? We have an helicopter building up an archangel in the sky. Are you interested into that? And they say, yeah, that sounds great. So that's one of the last images of the archangel. So it's filmed with a GoPro from the helicopter, and you see the Mont Saint-Michel Bay where it's going to be put. So that was like 2 weeks ago. That's an example of how the digital media are helping us to show what we're doing. Third element I'm talking to you about, it's the school and university. There's no image linked to that. I'm just going to talk to you about 2 examples. Young school boys and girls, 10 years old, worked for the whole year on the Azé-le-Rideau Castle and created a web radio elements that they develop inside the museum. That's an example of the partnership we have with them. Second example is students who did actually a visitor perception study inside one of our digital exhibition. Number 4 are the cultural institutions. It can be in 3 different ways. I mentioned the partnership with the Russian monuments. For those of you who attended the session by Maïté from Versailles, Le Roi est Mort was an example of that collaboration with cultural institutions. And the example I wanted to mention is this one. So the thing you see here is a digital label. So we implemented it in the Champs-sur-Marne Castle. And people from the Louvre just told us, this sounds great, but are you planning to develop it, add new features and so on? And we told them, yes, we do, but we don't have time right now, we don't have the team, and the money is gone in the first version. So, yeah, and they said, okay, we're going to take in charge the second part, we're going to monitor the project, and what the features that are added will be in the first version too. So actually we started it, and they're building on it right now, so that we all have version number 2 that is improved from this one. So that's another way to collaborate with other institutions in that digital area. In the middle, CMN. Sometimes you just go and look all over the place when sometimes the solution is inside the institution. So one of the first ecosystem you have to build on is your own institution. So that sounds, logical, but sometimes we just forget to do about it, and I'm going to tell you at the end a nice story based on that too. This is the intranet system that we plan, and when we had to redefine and rebuild our websites, we decided to first do the intranet for the people inside our structure. And this one is like the front page for it says my personal space. But you see here there's a quiz that we do every month, and the question is about one of the monuments or exhibition happening in the network. Why? Because so that people get to know each other and what the others are planning, and they're asking questions and they're submitting ideas. So that's the first way. As I was mentioning, internet is and new technologies and digital are first and foremost about communication. So that's basic of communication, but we didn't have that working well before 2 years ago. Can you just come back? The 2 last points, I'm going to show it with the next projects, are the partners over there, and those small stuff here, the startups. We really rely on many startups that are working with us and, challenging us actually. And that's part of the way to confront with that digital wave that is circling us. So I'm going to show you just how that ecosystem transforms into real projects. I cannot talk about like 30, 40, 50 projects. I just picked 7, and I hope it will be good examples for you. Let's start with Norio. Can you click on the red one? Yeah, thanks. This is Norio. Norio is a robot, and it's been created in a great place, if you've never been there, which is called Château Waron, in the southwest of France. We actually it was proposed by 2 engineers. They were working on that robot. It's been a 3-year project developing the robot, and it's working today. What it does is, when you're in a wheelchair, you can access the first floor. Of course, we would love to build elevators for everywhere, for everyone, but you can imagine that I cannot build an elevator in a cathedral or in a castle easily. So in Waron, it was not possible. So what we build is like a perfect and gigantic desktop with computers and screens. on the level of the ground, when actually a person with a wheelchair can connect. And what you see here is his or her face. So she's in the basement, the robot is on the top, and the person can visit around. Okay, you can tell me they can just visit with a camera. What's important, it's the interaction. Remember, connecting. That's what it's all about. The thing is, here, when you're coming with your family and friends, they're around the robot, and the robot is actually you projected in another space. So what's happening is that you speak in front of a camera, and you can actually interact with the people upstairs. That's one of the projects. I'm sorry, I'm going very quick. I really love all those projects, but yeah. Second one, the digital guest book. Actually, I won't go into details because we developed that with a startup that is called Guest Views, and I'm not sure they're here now, but they're going to be here on Wednesday on Museum Rocket, so you can meet with them. This is that small tablet here, okay? This is also a complicated story. I've been working as a student on guest books for years. And one day, those two girls just came up and told me, well, we're working on a digital guest book. Do you think it could be interesting? And I was like, yes, I love guest book. This is something I want to work on. So we just met like that. And they developed that application here. It has 3 features. You can leave a comment after an exhibition. That's the first one. The second one, so that's what you see here, just people commenting. And yes, emoji is a word. Emoji is a comment. So it raises questions because how do you manage those emojis afterwards? But we let people use emojis to comment. Second feature is we put images and we ask people to comment on them. And the third feature is a questionnaire. Actually, you can leave your age, where you come from, etc. This exhibition is a really specific one. It was a really meaningful exhibition called 4 Lives in Resistance. And we launched it last year when 4 people who were in the resistance in the Second World War were entering the Panthéon in Paris. But the guy in charge of the exhibition wanted to ask the public to think about what resistance means today. We had wonderful elements, people reacting and people writing beautiful texts about what it means for them. And it was not meant to be a support of mediation, interpretation, but it became that sort of stuff. So it created connection, again, between the past and the present. Why? Because we didn't plan it that way, but the exhibition took place last May. And you know that in Paris we have been under terrorist attack for the last years, and it raises reaction to people that were linking actually World War II history and the heritage on what resistance means today in our daily life. I'm just going to pass it quickly on the King and the Salamander because we already mentioned it. Just to show you that one, it was a way for us to celebrate François Ier in 2015. And this was a game, actually, just to show you how gaming can be an answer to raise other visitors. You see that rhino here, okay? This is not fantasy, this is not creation. There really was a rhino in front of that castle, which is If Castle in the Mediterranean. So the idea here is connecting real history with invention and bringing children to use new technologies. Last story, don't click on it because I don't have any images for now on, is the Sainte-Chapelle Visitor app. As I told you, just start to focus on the team. This story is a great story. One day, the person in charge of the Sainte-Chapelle told me, there's someone in my team who is who is taking pictures and working on an app. You should meet him. And actually, that guy has been working for the Sainte-Chapelle for 10 years. He knows the place by heart. And you've seen the visitors. And what's the main problem for the visitors in the Sainte-Chapelle? Looking up. Sainte-Chapelle is 15 meters high, and if you want to see the ceiling, it's really difficult for you. He's been doing more than 2,000 photographs. He knows when to take the photographs. He's been there for 10 years, so he knows where the sun is good and how the lights is coming into the chapel. And he built an app, he developed it, right? This is what I call entrepreneurship, and this is one of the main thing and most important thing that you have today. Those people, no one asked him to do it, it just did. So we helped him to finish it and develop it. So never underestimate the inner force of this entrepreneur. Can you just click on entrepreneurship for 2 seconds? 2 images. The virtual line, virtual waiting line we're experimenting. I'm just following on the steps of Axel. We're launching projects. We're not sure it's going to work, but we're testing it. This was in front of the Notre Dame towers, and we tried to see if we can just simplify the waiting line for the people. Usually you have to wait 1 hour and 45 minutes. This time, you just come here, take a ticket, and we told you to come back at that hour, and no more than 3 minutes waiting. So it worked. But maybe it could have failed. We just tried it for 4 days, and now we say we're going to just launch it on a world basis. Last but not least, this is happening in November 2016. Museumics, bringing people inside the museum, inside the palace, actually in Reims, to try to change it. Well, should be a last one. Just to conclude, because I'm getting out of time. What I try to do today is give you the recipe for strategy in the digital age. Sum up in 4 stuff. Be aware that there is a digital vertigo around you. Don't take the tsunami, learn to surf the wave. Formulate your goal and stay true to it. We are a network, we're connecting people, and that's all I'm doing every day. Third one, identify and constitute your ecosystem, build it around you, and it's digital, but not only. So never think about only digital, it just goes beyond the borders. And learn the art of coordinating and putting all stuff together. We had a question in France, because we don't use digital, we use numérique, because digital doesn't mean anything. But digital, if you come back to etymology, means your finger. That's your fingerprint, and it's your personal, your own. You're the only one to have that one. Plus it means action. This is what you click on to act, okay? And that's it, I'm done.